My Daughter Keeper presents The Wolves of Langston by Daniel Howard. A solo 5e scenario from Obvious Mimic Press. Episode 8, Holding the Line Against the Undead.
You're left gasping for breath when you arrive at Tomlin's cottage. It seems like such a long time ago you were here helping him rid his garden of scraplings, though in reality it's been little more than a week. The cottage is corpse-like in that it looks exactly the same as the last time you were here, but the dark windows and quiet of the grey dawn give the place a disconcerting stillness. The person who brought this place to life is gone, and a shiver runs up your spine at the realization. But within could be the key to saving someone else. So you set aside any discomfort at stealing from a dead man and try to find a way in. You try the front door and it's locked. The trellises are high and thick with vines, and you know firsthand how hard they are to climb, even if the back door would be unlocked. It's not worth the time as someone lies bleeding to death on a tavern table. That leaves you the option of picking the lock on the front door, breaking down the front door, or breaking a window and crawling in.
I don't have time for this. Our life hangs in the balance. Let's just bash down the door.
You assess the door and you've seen sturdier, but it's still going to take some doing to break down. Roll a strength check to break down the door.
That's 12 on the die, plus my 1, 13. That's enough to break down this door.
The door's hinges bend and the wood around the latch splinters as you break in the door. You have no time to admire your handiwork, however, as you rush into the cottage looking for anything that can help. The interior of Tomlin's house looks like the last time you saw it, only frozen in time. No cauldron bubbles and no remedies are being distilled. With only the weak light from outside, the cottage is gloomy despite the brightly coloured ingredients drying, and a mustiness is already moving in under the smell of herbs and flowers. Though you feel a twinge of sadness for Tomlin's passing, you quickly collect yourself and start rifling through his belongings, looking for any unsold healing potions. Roll an intelligence investigation check.
That's 13 on the die. With my plus 4, that's a comfortable 17. Pass on all fronts.
Like the care he took with his garden, Tomlin was meticulous about organising his ingredients and remedies. Everything is clearly labelled and in its place. It doesn't take you long to find what you're looking for. Your quick search turns up 3 bottles labelled as healing potions and a vial of antitoxin. Add 3 potions of healing and 1 antitoxin to your inventory. As you do one last check through the herbalist's belongings, you come across a garland woven of brightly coloured wildflowers. It looks like something one might wear in some kind of ceremony, so you assume it's some part of the wedding that didn't happen. Interestingly, all the flowers look and smell as if they were plucked from a meadow just minutes ago, though you don't see how that could be possible. Examining the garland, it shimmers slightly as you turn it. This could be helpful as well, and at the very least you should probably ask Roy about it. It's clearly magical, but you haven't the time to figure out what it does right now. Add Tomlin's garland to your inventory. One last cursory check doesn't reveal anything else that will be helpful. You rush out of Tomlin's cottage toward the pickled hen, hoping it's not too late. You burst into the pickled hen, and the bedlam of Roy's arrival has calmed down. The injured militia member is lying on a table, her wounds wrapped in bandages already stained through with blood. Roy is speaking quietly to Mayor Anathram. "There were 3 of them this time," he said. "Just skeletons. But one of them got past me and caught the poor lass good. Still no word on when the new cleric will arrive?" "None," the mayor says. "Have you learned anything from Selene?" "Nothing," Roy says. "Just the same story that the land itself is cursed, and that the temple puts the dead to rest, but only if there's a member of the Radiant Order caring for it." The mayor nods her acknowledgement at Roy's report, and then notices you. "Did you find any potions?"
Yes, here, please.
Remove 1 potion of healing from your inventory. Roy takes it and administers it to the wounded woman on the table. Stiff with pain despite being unconscious, She visibly relaxes as the druid pours the healing elixir into her mouth. "That should do her," he says. "She'll at least be stable until I can recover my healing spells. How was your patrol, adventurer?"
Last night's patrol was uneventful. However, Roy, this garland, found it in Tomlin's house. What do you make of it?
He says as he examines it. This is a wedding garland, not unusual in itself. Mostly made of flowers that symbolize love, but also some poisonous blooms in the mix. And these red ones, they only bloom in the spring, so they should be dead and gone long ago. He turns the garland over, watching the magical shimmer. The mayor looks on dispassionately. "Well, I don't see any harm in it," he says. "I think we could do with a diversion, adventurer? Let's bring this back to Maybelline's folks. It'll give them a little memento and something for us to do while we wait for the new priest." Without waiting for your reply, the energetic druid whisks you away from the tavern and on your way out of town. You and Roy enjoy a companionable walk out of Langston, in which you've come to terms with the events of the past couple of weeks. You briefly discuss Selene with Roy, voicing some concerns for her health and mental state. "The poor lass was so sweet before," he says. "And there'd be people taking advantage of that, but she was an important part of this community. It came as quite a shock to the town when Tomlin left her for Maybelline, especially so quickly." As you and Roy make your way through the country roads, the clouds continue to roll in and a light drizzle starts to fall. You're damp and chilled by the time you reach your destination. Roy knocks gently at a farmhouse door. Maybelline's mother opens the door and peeks out, but when she sees you and Roy, she gives you both a wide smile that doesn't reach her tired eyes. She looks thin, as if stretched too far, but that's to be expected given the recent events that have affected her family. "If it isn't Roy and the adventurer who brought that priest to justice," she says, "you must be freezing. Come in and warm yourselves by the fire. I already have a kettle on for tea." She escorts you into a communal living area with a fire crackling gently in the hearth. Maybelline's father is sitting in a rocking chair mending a harness for some beast of burden. He looks up, meets your eye, and nods. His eyes are rimmed with red and dark circles encase his eyes. As Maybelline's mother bustles off toward the kitchen, Roy leans close to you and says under his breath, "Something is off here. I know these lands better than anyone, and something is wrong with the farm." You nod just as Maybelline's mother comes in from the kitchen with a teapot and 4 cups. While she busies herself with the tea, you pull out the garland you found at Tomlin's house and present it to Maybelline's parents. Their faces darken when they see it. "The adventurer found this in the home of your future son-in-law," Roy says. "So I thought you might want it, for closure." "That looks so familiar," Maybelline's mother says, squinting at the garland. "I think Maybelline made that herself, but weren't there 2? "There were definitely 2, the father says. "I remember Maybelline making them. She was humming and singing these funny little songs the whole time." "Did you not find the other one?" Roy shoots you a loaded look. "This garland is unusual," he says. "Do you know where the other one is?" "I don't," says the father. And you can now see he's just ineffectually picking at the harness in his lap. "But you can take a look around if you think it will help." Maybelline's mother still hasn't poured any tea, and she is just staring at the steaming teapot. She looks up, just remembering you're there. "Oh yes, please, anything you think might help." Shooting Roy a concerned look, you consider where you should look for the other garland, and maybe a clue to the couple's strange behaviour. You could check Maybelline's bedroom, the kitchen, or see if there are any of these flowers in the garden.
I'm going to start with her bedroom and pray that I haven't messed up.
You ask if it's all right to take a look in Maybelline's room, and her father just points. You and Roy look around carefully but thoroughly. You find a twin to the garland you found in Tomlin's cottage tucked under Maybelline's pillow. It has the same shimmer you saw with the first one. You hand Roy Tomlin's garland while picking up Maybelline's. You feel that the ring of wildflowers tugs slightly toward its counterpart, as if the two were trying to touch. It's hard to explain where it might be coming from, but there's a sense of longing coming from the braided wildflowers in your hand. "You feel that too, eh?" Roy says. "This is looking more and more like some kind of enchantment, but nothing like any spell I've ever seen before. The pull continues, an insistent force pulling the wedding garlands toward each other. Come here, adventurer. I want to try something. Roy reaches out Tomlin's wedding garland to touch Maybelline's. Just don't fall in love with me, eh? You let the two strings of woven flowers touch each other, and the tugging sensation abruptly stops. The shimmer becomes a flash, and when your vision clears, both you and the druid are holding blackened chains of rotting flowers. Roll an intelligence arcana check.
15 on the die plus my 4, that's 19. That's definitely a pass.
You identify the magic as some ancient love spell, though you have no idea how it might have come to be here in Maybelline's home.
It seems like a condition for a pact with dark forces. I should know, I'm intimately familiar with them. But it's a force with a cruel sense of humor. This is conjecture, of course, and I'm not familiar with the actual spell used to create this effect, unfortunately.
When you explain all this to Roy, he sucks at his teeth for a moment. Well, Selene may know something. She spent a lot of time studying these dark arts. Wouldn't hurt to ask, would it? Add blackened garlands to your inventory. You can still explore the kitchen, or see if you can find where the flowers came from in the garden.
Let's go take a look at the kitchen real quick.
Maybelline's parents barely seem to register your presence as you move from the common area into their kitchen. Your first impression is that it is a kitchen like that found in any farmhouse anywhere in the land. Dried herbs hang from the rafters within reach. A cast iron pan sits on the stovetop, smooth with many years of seasoning. There are simple cooking utensils and enough plates and cups to accommodate the small family who lives there. But you and Roy look around all the same. Wrapped in an oilcloth at the back of the pantry, you find a hidden parcel of herbs and flowers. All of the plants are oddly proportioned. Most are covered in thorns that seem just a little too sharp, and leaves and flowers alike are rimmed with unnatural shades of purple and green. One of the blossoms is a deep midnight black and another has a splash of colour almost like a bloodstain. Roll an intelligence, nature check.
That's 10 on the die, plus my 2 is only 12. That's not going to pass, but I do still have inspiration left over. Let's burn it. No, that's a failure. Damn. Oh well.
You don't recognise the herbs, but Roy does, and he seems to be avoiding touching them. Those plants are not natural, he says. They only grow in unhallowed soil, and while I'm not entirely sure, burning them can also open up communications with demons, devils, and the like. You ask if this is the right mix to do so, and Roy just shrugs. No idea, but Selene might. She's an expert in these things, even without that library of hers. Add unhallowed herbs to your inventory.
Just before we finish here, I think we should check the garden. Let's go do that. Come on, Roy.
You and Roy go out into the family garden, and Maybelline's parents seem to not even notice you leave. They have a plot behind the farmhouse. You can see vegetables like string beans and tomatoes planted in neat rows, but the soil around them is teeming with weeds, and most of the plants seem scraggly with neglect. A few flowers are also in bloom, but not as many as could be. The whole outdoor space gives the impression of a well-planned garden that hasn't had any upkeep in a month or so. Still, you look around for the wildflowers you saw in the garland. They shouldn't be affected by the lack of care needed by the cultivated plants. Sadly, you can find no sign of the flowers. You do find something much more interesting. There's a patch of odd soil near the wall of the house, presumably under Maybelline's window. Unlike the rest of the garden, this soil is the same black colour as what you saw in the cemetery. This patch is too small to be a grave, but something could certainly be buried there. As you crouch down and start digging, Roy breaks off his search to join you. He waits beside you in anxious silence as you scoop away the eerily dark earth. After a few minutes, you reveal that something was indeed buried there. You find a piece of parchment, stained a dark brown by the earth and completely covered with a jagged, otherworldly script. There is a braided lock of hair strung through the strange message. That looks like abyssal to me, Roy said. Can you read it? I certainly can't.
Sadly, my friend, yes, I can. Looking over this, it appears to be an incantation, and it appears to be written in a dialect that I'm not familiar with. But look here, see, there are a number of errors in the way it is written. I don't think this is going to be easy to interpret.
After reading through the text a few times, however, you can clearly see that it is a pact with some demonic entity. There appears to be a name, but you cannot make sense of it. So in exchange for something involving the dead of Langston, it seems that whoever wrote this incantation gets the love and devotion of the target. So it's a love spell, Roy says. A powerful one, I wager, if the runoff is also affecting her parents. I don't know if she'll help, but we need to ask Selene about this.
We have nothing left here. Let us return to town. We must speak with Selene.
You and Roy bid farewell to Maybelline's parents, and her mother still half-heartedly offers you tea while her father barely looks up. It's honestly impossible to tell whether it's the magical effects Roy can feel, or if it's just the trauma of recent events. Well, adventurer, Roy says outside, I think we haven't any time to lose. Get on. Before you can question what he means, Roy's form shifts into that of a powerful-looking pony. He tosses his red mane and prances alongside you, letting you climb on. Once you've gotten a grip on his neck, he takes off toward town at a gallop. He sprints into town and clatters down through the cobblestone streets to the jailhouse near the town hall. You climb off of Roy and he reverts to his dwarven form. Both of you enter the jail together. Inside it is gloomy, with little natural light coming in through the open door. Most of the light comes from the several oil lamps burning around a single jail cell. It looks like it's mostly used for drunks and travelling vagabonds to spend the night, but currently the only occupant is Selene. She looks strange without her vestments, instead being dressed in a plain grey dress likely donated by a kind woman in town. She is sitting calmly on the edge of a cot in her cell, hands over her knees and eyes on the wall. Still, her eyes dart to you and Roy as you enter. Roy, my dear friend, she says calmly. There's a chill in her voice. Thank you for visiting again. To what do I owe the pleasure? Selene, darling, Roy says as he nervously wrings his hands. It pains me to ask, but I was wondering if I could please ask for your advice. Selene looks between you and the druid. Adventurer, you may have beaten me, but I am not broken. I will help only because you're asking, Roy. You can ask her about anything you have in your inventory. The blackened garlands, the unhallowed herbs, or the lock of hair with the scrap of paper.
These are not in their original condition, but I don't suppose you recognize these flowers.
You hold up the wilted and blackened garlands for Selene to look at. They look like wedding garlands, she says. And I have seen many in this town, as the officiant, of course. And these were healthy until you brought them close to each other? You nod and Roy backs you up. It sounds like these were used as an anchor for some enchantment, but there was a pact written in bad faith. She chuckles dryly at her own attempt at a pun. There was likely some clause that said if these two objects ever came into contact, the spell would be broken. A condition that sows chaos like that sounds like it came from a demonic entity. You return the garlands to your pack. Thanks, lass, Roy says. How are you holding up? The same as yesterday, Selene says. So where did you find these garlands?
We found one in Tomlin's home, the other in Maybelline's.
But, she says, her cool exterior beginning to crack, that would mean that either Maybelline or Tomlin was the victim of an enchantment, a love spell of some kind. What else did you find? You pull out the bundle of unhallowed herbs and show Selene. Well, plants are more Roy's specialty, she says, but I recognise these. They are distinctive for sure, and I often find them growing in the cemetery. What are they? Roy clears his throat. Though I don't know how to process them, these are the ingredients of a communion incense. Communion with... what? Selene's eyes narrow as though she already knows the answer. She takes a tentative sniff at the herbs. Not the sort of company I'd like to keep, Roy says, and Selene nods. So the girl was telling the truth, Selene says, her gaze growing distant. She really did put Tomlin under her power. I thought she was just mocking me. What did she trade for Tomlin?" The former cleric's eyes snap up to you. Roy takes a step back from her intensity. "What else? Did you find anything else?" You pull out the braided lock of hair and scrap of paper and hold it out to Selene. She recoils, her hand reaching for a holy symbol that is no longer there. That's Tomlin's hair," she hisses. "Where did you get that?"
Well, we found it buried in Maybelline's back garden.
"It's pact magic," she snarls. "An enchantment written in the language of demons, so there is a price to be paid. Are her parents all right?" "They're acting a bit strange, and there was something wrong with the place," Roy says with a shiver, as if the soil itself were crying out in pain. "Now that you've removed this from their property, they shouldn't feel any more effects within a couple of days," Selene says. Then she mutters absently, half at Roy. "So that's what she meant by powerful friends. I just thought she was talking about some other yokel."
What does it all mean?
She looks away from the spell to lock eyes with you. "It means that I killed the man who loved me," she says. "But I also got my revenge on the woman who made me do it." Under the smouldering anger of her look, you take a step back from the cell bars. But as quickly as she turned, Selene takes a deep breath and apparently sheds her dark rage as she turns to her friend. "We're done here," she says.
Thank you for your assistance, Selene. We will bid you farewell.
She looks at you down her nose. "I can't tell if you are truly noble or just in it for your own personal gain," she says to you. "But you're not doing anything that I wouldn't have done in your place." You open your mouth to thank her, but she cuts you off with a smile that reminds you of her wolf fangs. You take a step back from the cell and bump into Roy. "But I will still get my revenge, someday." "Come on," Roy says to you, tugging you toward the door. "It's time to go." Once outside, you see tears shining on the dwarf's cheeks and in his beard. He wipes his nose with a sleeve and huffs out a sigh. "Selene was the best of us once," he says. "A truly good person who did what was right. But now, a broken shell and a lunatic. My friend is gone, all thanks to some silly girl who couldn't bear to hear no." You aren't quite sure what to say, but the druid speaks first. "Come on, adventurer," he says. "We both need some rest. It's another night on patrol for the both of us." Roy walks you back to the pickled hen, but instead of leaving for the grove, you see him shift into his reddish wolf form before curling up on the floor next to the fire. He's already begun to snore by the time you start climbing the stairs to your room. You are enjoying your second uneventful nightly patrol and just finishing up the first watch. You are outside the pickled hen and light is streaming out the tavern windows along with good-natured banter from the militia members you were leading. The innkeeper has been kind enough to keep the common room open late into the night for the militia to eat and socialize after patrols. You've taken a moment to look out over the sleeping town. The clouds cleared while you slept, and now a full moon hangs in the starry sky above. The lamplighter shave stayed home while the risk of undead remains high, so the moon's cool white light is the only illumination. In the dappled shadows of the night, you almost miss the small movement across the street from the tavern. At first, you think it's just your eyes playing tricks on you, but you could swear you see a woman standing in the shadows wearing a plain, rough-spun dress. The moonlight is playing tricks around her features, keeping her swathed in shadows. You can't even begin to make out the face except for a small, wry smile and light-coloured hair tied back in a tight bun. But then you blink and she's gone. You approach where you think you saw the odd figure and find nothing except a faint chill hanging in the air. You remember that there are still undead wandering the streets, and it would not be good to be caught alone. You return to the inn for a hot meal, a cool drink, and a good night's rest. You wake to the sound of a commotion downstairs in the tavern. It doesn't sound like another injured patrol, but there's a general din of voices in the common room. You ready yourself to go down and see what the fuss is all about. You come down the stairs to a heated conversation between Mayor Anathram, Roy, and a tired-looking militia member. "There is a problem," the mayor says. "Well, the problem is gone," Roy says. "And that's the problem." Seeing your confusion, Roy gestures to the haggard militia member still catching his breath. Please, don't make me try to explain it, he says. Just come with me. The group of you make your way to the jail. The mayor is walking so briskly that Roy has to jog to keep up. When you arrive, it takes you a moment to understand what you're seeing. What's left of the cell door's shattered lock is still glittering with an unnatural frost. A biting chill hangs in the air and you can see your breath. The cell itself is empty and you would guess it has been since sometime late last night. Adventurer, the mayor says, what is this? She points to the floor where the frost forms a distinct pattern despite its jagged edges. A crescent moon. A new voice saves you from having to answer the mayor. So, what happened in this town of yours? Asks the newcomer. You, Roy, and Mayor Anathram turn to the door where a cleric in dusty white robes is peering into the jail cell. Roy walks up to the cleric, a young man with stooped shoulders and light brown hair, and claps the holy man on the back. It's a long story, lad, but we'll have plenty of time as we get you settled into the temple. Let me show you the way. It seems your services are no longer required, Mayor Anathram says to you as Roy leads the cleric out. Thank you. Where will you go next? You look at the thick frost on the cell door and floor, then think back to your moonlit encounter the night before.
I'm not sure yet, but whatever adventure comes next, I will not do it alone. Thank you for listening. If you survive this episode and find yourself craving more dice-fueled misery, remember that My Daughter's Keeper now releases twice a week. Your regular descent into madness every Sunday, with these special episodes on Wednesdays. If that still isn't enough, our Patreon is waiting in the shadows. Membership unlocks a growing catalogue of special scenarios, access to our Discord community of like-minded troublemakers, and even the chance to join us for backer-only games, where your poor life choices can become canon. Until next time, keep your lanterns lit, your dice honest, and your escape plan ready, because things are only going to get worse.